Well, hello everybody. We're back. Dr. Amir and Pastor R. Dallas Green, and last time we chatted about the calm in the storm.
Yes.
Now Jesus was able to peacefully sleep when the waves were crashing and the boat was going up and the wind was blowing and there was dark clouds everywhere. So, and we talked about the benefits of sleep and how we can, through our faith and through our actions, find that peace. And then we said, well, what did Jesus mean when he talked about an abundant life? And so we're going to unpack that for you today. So take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Amir. Well, Jesus said that I've come to give you life, and life more abundant, a plenteous life that's much more sufficient than you ever imagined, much greater than you ever imagined. So he came from heaven to us to show us how to live and to give us this gift called life, an abundant kind of life. And then he said, you know, in John chapter 15, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. And if you want to experience this life, you have to stay connected to me. You have to remain in me, abide in me. If you remain in me, and I remain in you, because no branch can bear fruit by itself, it must remain in the vine. But if we do stay connected to Jesus, there's this potential of his life flowing through us and producing an abundance, this big cluster of grapes. You may ask, like, what does this cluster of grapes begin to look like? Well, Paul says that the fruit of the Spirit is love and joy and peace and patience. So the outward manifestation of an inward work of God is we begin to bear fruit, an abundant amount of fruit in our lives. So we begin to experience things like peace in the midst of the storm,
Right.
and joy in the midst of our troubles, and love for people that, you know, hate us. It's an amazing thing when God begins to cultivate fruit in us, an abundant fruit.
Boy, that sounds great.
Yes.
That sounds fantastic. I want more. Well, you know, you can't have more if it's abundant already, right? So the abundant life, that's fantastic. And I would assume all those things lead to health and wellness also.
Yes, the life of God flowing through us.
Right.
Yes.
So does that mean God cares about every aspect and every realm of our life and not just one part of it?
Yeah, we've said so far that, you know, we're mind, body, and soul. And so God cares about how we think and our soul, the condition of our soul, and our bodies. He wants all those parts to be in alignment, healthy.
You know, we talked about this a little while ago, a couple of videos ago, I guess, where we talked about how Jesus would just heal everybody who came to him. So, and it seemed like he really didn't ask for much except for faith.
Yes.
Believe, and I'll give you that abundant life.
Yes.
So if we bring that to today, because today we don't have someone who can just touch you and have you instantly be perfectly restored to perfect health, and you know, we do live in a fallen world, but our bodies are designed to self-heal and self-regulate to a degree. We call that limitations of matter, which means certain viruses I can, you know, fight against and I won't even have symptoms. Other viruses will make me sick for a few days and then I'm okay. And there may be viruses out there that may be stronger than my personal immune system, may take me out. You know, viruses like the Ebola virus, you know, half the people who got sick with Ebola died a few years ago. I believe it was 2014. So God certainly wants us to be happy all the time. He commands us to be joyful. I've looked at the emotion of joy with regards to health, wellness, physiology, and it actually is one of the best drugs you could take.
A joyful heart is good.
That's right. Yes, and that's Proverbs. Is that where that is?
Proverbs.
There you go. So the there's no side effects. You're never going to be overjoyed. It's not possible. You know, no one's going to end up in the hospital because they took in too much joy or expressed too much joy. You know, they exploded with joy and they needed to go be put in a hospital for a while. And but we know, studying the human body, that when we're joyful, we have the right hormones in the body. We have the right enzymes in the body. We digest our food better. Our muscles are more relaxed. Our joints are stronger. our immune system is tougher. It's more resistant to disease and illness. And in fact, the interleukins and the endorphins and enkephalins that get released in joyous states are equivalent to $100,000 worth of anti-cancer medication.
There's a famous guy, Dr. Amir, his name is Norman Cousins.
That's right.
And he had a disease, and the doctors really had no remedy. What he decided to do was become joyful.
Mm-hmm.
So he watched the Three Stooges every day, and he laughed, and he became better over the course of months. And as the doctors asked, "What did you do?" He said, "I just simply put on joy. I learned to laugh again."
Yes.
And his body healed.
Oh, yes. I'm very familiar with him. Norman Cousins wrote a great book called The Anatomy of an Illness, and he told this story about that. The part of the story that blows me away is because that's a condition I've seen in some of my patients, which is called ankylosing spondylitis, where the pelvic bones begin to fuse together, and that fusion goes all the way up the spine. The whole spine eventually fuses, and it comes on with back pain, but then Norman Cousins had so much pain that if he touched the ground with the sole of his foot, he felt like he was standing on shards of glass. That much pain, and it would shoot through his legs up. So the doctor actually told him, he said, "You need to make a decision. Do you want to spend the rest of your life lying flat on your back or seated in a wheelchair? Because we need to keep you in that position when your spine fuses. You're never going to be able to change position again. You're going to be stuck in that. Which position do you want to be in?"
The medical doctor didn't give him two good alternatives.
Not at all. He didn't know that there's the power of joy.
Yeah.
So actually, Norman Cousins called his wife. Apparently, there's a movie actually about him also. He calls his wife in the middle of the night and says, "I made my decision. I know what I want." She said, "Well, which one did you pick? Standing or lying down or seated?" He goes, "I picked neither. I'm going to stand, I'm going to walk, I'm going to run, I'm going to sit, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to be able to do all those things. That's my decision." And so, he certainly had great faith, and he used joy with the comedies that he watched in the hospital room. Yeah, he noticed that when he was laughing, it was the only time he didn't feel tremendous pain. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, he was in massive, massive pain, agonizing pain. But every time he laughed, he got a little bit of relief.
Yes.
But those are those special hormones that God designed in our bodies that heal us.
So there's the healing power of joy then flowing through his body, the abundant life.
Yes.
That Jesus came to talk about.
Right.
And show us how to live this life.
Exactly.
Yes. I think many Christians believe, Dr. Amir, that in his presence there's fullness of joy. But in this life there's a lot of heartache and sorrow and troubles we pass through.
Yes.
So how do we sort of step into this joy in the midst of our life journeys?
Very good. Very good. So there is physiologic changes in the body that happen when we're happy. Right? Do you ever see someone who's joyful and frowning?
No.
It's hard to do.
No.
Try to frown and smile at the same time. I mean, you'll make a funny face, but it won't make any sense. So you can't do that. And also someone who is upbeat, they walk a little different, talk a little different, act a little different, they stand a little different, they have different posture. Exactly. And so there are ways where you change your physiology to change your mood and attitude. Almost like let your actions dictate how you feel, but don't let your feelings dictate how you act. Because if we weren't able to create joy in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls, we weren't able to do that, then God and Jesus wouldn't have said, "Be joyful."
So the byproduct of how we think then is how we feel.
Yeah.
So if I choose to think rightly, then what happens is I begin to feel differently.
Or act. If you act the part,
Yes.
your body will automatically. It's almost like try to be happy and frown. You won't feel any happiness. But you're happy right now. But the minute you frown, different chemicals get released in your body, and it changes that. So if you're unhappy, one is what you said, which is ask yourself, what am I thinking about right now?
Yeah.
What am I focused on right now? Chances are you're not focused on eternity. You're not focused on the goodness of God and the abundance that He brings you. You're probably focused on a trouble or a problem. So that's one is the thought. The other is acting happy. And the third would be what Norman Cousins did, which is make yourself laugh. You know, at our house we do laughing sessions. Where we sit around, I have 3 sons, and my wife and I we all sit around the dinner table, and we'll just say, hey, I'll tell one of my sons, just laugh. And at first it's a fake laugh. And but because this fake laugh is funny, then one of us will laugh. And then it's contagious. And all of a sudden, we are all laughing hysterically. We probably look like a bunch of lunatics. But we're just, even my 18-month-old just starts laughing and he can't stop. And I tell you, it feels good. It feels really good. I think God wants us to laugh. God wants us to be joyful. God wants us to perceive our troubles as maybe stepping stones that change us into something amazing and better, so He can do a work through us and in us.
Our troubles are always temporary. One person said, my favorite verse in the Bible is, they didn't come to stay, they came to pass. They only lasted for a short while.
Yes.
So we think about our troubles being temporary, but God being eternal.
Right.
And the things that really matter being eternal.
Right.
Setting our eyes upon them.
Yes.
I was a while back in school, and one of my professors' name was Larry Crabb. And Larry Crabb was counseling somebody, and they were just pouring out their troubles, just sorrow after sorrow, heartache after heartache. And he kept leaning back in his chair a little farther. The more troubles they share, he would lean further back in his chair. And finally they got to the hardest part of the story, and he fell out of his chair. And the person started laughing. And he kind of picked himself up. And the person, when they left that day, said, you did more good for me today by falling out of your chair and giving me a chance to laugh. I haven't laughed in many, many years.
Wow.
So he says it's a good way to do therapy. Bad on the therapist,
Right.
good for the person. They got a chance to laugh in the midst of their troubles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The abundant life.
And isn't it amazing how we can instantly change our physiology?
Yes.
1 minute he's talking about all these horrible things, and instantly he is laughing.
Yes.
So we can change. We just choose not to. Pastor R, I guarantee if there was, let's say, a member of your congregation, let's say they're using some bad language, or they're angry, and they're speaking loudly, rudely to someone they care about, and that person says, why don't you speak nicely to me? He goes, I can't because I'm so angry. I promise you, if their pastor showed up at that moment, in that instant, in that room, they would change their attitude immediately. Oh, Pastor R is in the room. I'm not going to use any bad language. I'm going to act like I'm calm. I'm going to... So never, I don't think we should ever say that a feeling has so much control over us, because we can change it. For me, for example, let's say I'm really upset about something, and one of my heroes, Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, let's say they suddenly appeared in the room, and forget the supernatural methods that would happen, but let's say they just showed up out of the blue. I would not stay in the mood I was in before. I would instantly change. I would go from upset to happy. I would probably show some respect. I'd want to talk to him, and I wouldn't say, come back another time, I'm not feeling good today. So we can change, and we do have that power. God's given us that power. And it actually, now you tell me, is it a command?
Yes.
Where God says, be joyful.
Yes. Paul says to rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Almost like we missed it the first time. So he says it the second time.
That's right.
Rejoice. It is a command to rejoice in the Lord, in His
Yeah.
goodness.
Right. Because I know for a fact, many of our viewers are having some tough times. I know for a fact many of them don't think it's possible to be happy. And you've been in those situations as well, where you thought, wow, there's no hope, so I wouldn't be able to smile if I tried, or I wouldn't be able to laugh, or I wouldn't be able to be joyful. So if that's the case, which there is, and there are a lot of people out there, we need to give you guys some hope too, that you can, and there is joy available, there is abundance of life promised you, but you've got to turn to God, and you've got to put your faith in Him.
Yes.
And when you do, there is health and healing that accompanies that.
Yes.
Even if we look at it as a purely scientific standpoint, science tells us that you're healthier when you're positive, upbeat, and happy. Now, we do know also that there's cases that are terminal.
Yes.
Right? There are cases that they do have no hope, and they've been told that this is it, and they have a certain number of days or a certain number of months left. I think they need to get some information from us as well.
Yes, I think in that case there's a resilient kind of joy, and a joy that God gives, a grace that God gives in the midst of that situation. It's beyond the situation. It's found in Him, flowing through us.
Right.
A hope that's beyond this life.
Yes.
A hope that takes us into eternity. And David said, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So he had a hope that was anchored in God that was going to withstand whatever circumstances of his life.
Wow.
And that's what we want our viewers to take hold of, is that kind of hope.
Yes.
Beyond our earthly hopes.
Very nice. Very nice. What do you say we unpack that for them in the next video and
Let's
really
do it.
dig deep into that? So,
Yes.
so this next one is going to be for those of you who are in terminal cases, who are hurting and suffering, and who haven't been able to find that joy. We're going to be talking specifically to you.
Yes. See that?
All right, so it's not next video, it's the same video, because soon as we push stop on the camera, we got to talking and we decided, wow, we should have shared this with our viewers. So we're back, and so I just want you to hear what Pastor R just said a minute ago.
Well, I think there's joy flowing through us in abundance, and so we just wanted to share that abundance with our listeners.
Exactly.
I believe that joy is something that transcends the circumstances of our life. Some call it resilient joy. The joy of God is greater than the circumstances of our life. That something's flowing through me, like a river that's flowing through me. This barrenness of life, this desert, it's kind of refreshing me. And I know you've had experiences like that, Dr. Amir. You have an aunt also who had very challenging circumstances.
That's right. That's right. That was brilliantly put, by the way, Pastor R. I like the way you said that. Yes, I was a little kid, a few years, 7, 8 years old, and my Aunt Simi, who was my favorite aunt, was going to come over, and my dad said, "Sit down, I want to tell you something important." Now, my Aunt Simi was always happy and upbeat and joyful, and she always dressed nice. Even if she was just coming over for a short visit, she always dressed nice and had makeup on, and yeah, she was a jolly, slightly heavy-set lady who just loved children, especially me. She only loved me, actually, and would spend a lot of time with me, even though she was an adult. So I always looked forward to when she was coming over. But this time, Dad sat me down and said, "Listen, Aunt Simi was just diagnosed with cancer. The doctors have told her she doesn't have more than a few weeks left, and she's coming over right now. Just wanted you to be prepared." Now, as a 7 or 8 year old, I don't know how to deal with something like that, and obviously I was upset about it, but I didn't know, should I cry in front of her when she comes in, or should I act like nothing's wrong, or should I say something like, "I'm really sorry, you're about to die," or what would I do, or do I act like nothing's wrong? But as I'm thinking all this, she came in. She rang the bell, and we opened the door, and she came in, and she was herself. She was still joyful. She was still happy. She was dressed nice. She had her makeup on. She had her smile on. And she walked in, and we were all quiet. We didn't know how to act. She walked over to the stereo, and this is several decades ago, and our stereo was one of these big giant things with the dual cassette player and the big monster speakers, So she opened the drawer underneath and shuffled through the cassettes and found the cassette that she likes and picked it up and put it in the player and closed it and pushed that big giant play button, in, and the speakers, they came to life. And this upbeat dance music started to play through the speakers, and Aunt Simi started to dance in the middle of the room, in the living room. She started to dance, and then she grabbed my mom and pulled her to the center of the room and made her dance with her. And as the two of them were dancing, she grabbed my dad and pulled him in and started dancing with him. And then she chased me around the living room because I didn't want to dance, but she finally caught me and pulled me to the middle of the room and made me start dancing with her. And for the next 3 minutes, we were all dancing and enjoying this music. And there was a lot of laughter, there was a lot of joy. So when the music ended, and Simi stopped the music, stopped the cassette, and she said, listen, I only have about 6 weeks. That's all. So I'm going to celebrate and rejoice and be happy every single day. And I'm going to play that song because it's my favorite song. I'm going to play that song and I'm going to dance to it every day that I'm alive. She actually did that. She danced to that same song every day. And as she was going through the therapy, chemotherapy and so on, she got weak, she lost her hair, and there were times where 2 people had to hold her up by her arms when the song would come on. And they would kind of move her because she didn't have the strength to dance. And she eventually passed away because of the cancer. But not for another 10 years. You see, the music and the joy brought her back to life. Little by little, she started to feel better. She got a little strength. She started to gain some weight back. Her hair started to grow back. The cancer went into remission, and she was herself again. Literally 10 years instead of 6 weeks, she was alive. And that joy is testament that, yes, it can heal. Yes, it can be there in spite of all the, I can only imagine the kind of suffering she went through. Emotional suffering, physical suffering, mental suffering. But she stayed joyful.
And she lived 10 years.
10 years.
So you say, Dr. Amir, that in flu season, when so many are getting sick and there's so many fears out there about a flu that would take us out,
yes,
that maybe one of the better defenses we can do is to dance.
Oh, absolutely.
And rejoice and be happy.
Oh, yes.
My son comes home from the emergency room as a doctor.
Yes.
And the first thing he does with his children is they dance.
Oh, wonderful.
They put on music together and they dance.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So that's he says he finds his happiness in dancing with his children.
Oh, sure.
Just like you found happiness with dancing with your aunt.
Well, he's got a severely stressful job in the emergency room.
Yes.
He's around a lot of pain and suffering there, and
yes,
and he's got the responsibility of helping. So they're looking to him to be their Jesus.
To bring the joy into the room.
Yes.
And the hope.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. You know, guys, you know, during the winter times or the flu season or whatever it might be, some kind of an outbreak, that's your flu shot right there. I'm not, you know, that's part of what's going to make you stronger. I mean, shouldn't we do everything in our power? I mean, how about then the positive effects of worship music and going to church and corporate worship where we're actually with our peers of like mind and heart, and we're all worshiping together. I mean, if you've ever been to a concert, you know how much power there is in that. There's electricity in the air, that's the saying, right? But the same thing is the case in church when we're worshiping and there's beautiful music playing and we're all enjoying that music and praising God for it. That's got to be part of the reason devoutly Christian believers are healthier.
Yes. I love this. So we're gonna choose to be happy and not take life quite as serious as we have. We're gonna dance more.
Yes.
And we're gonna build up our immune systems.
Absolutely.
We're gonna fight off all these diseases.
Now, what's the verse that talks about the fruits of the Spirit?
That's Galatians 5:22.
Read Galatians 5:22. We talked about joy, but there's also a lot of others in there, like love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. See, those are all fruits. All of those will make you healthier, I promise you, every one of those. So read that and then be prepared, because next time we talk, we're going to tell you all about what to do, right? What to do if you're in a dire situation where you don't have that hope. Maybe kind of like Aunt Simi, who was suffering and she was just told she wasn't going to make it. Maybe there's tremendous pain in your life, abuse of some sort, or a past that you can't get away from. Let's talk about that. Let's talk directly to you. Until then.
Okay.